This is Mrs. Agnello, and I am going to explain how to use the SIFTT protocol for analyzing poems. The SIFTT protocol is an acronym that stands for Symbols, Imagery, Figurative Language, Tone and Title, and Theme. So SIFTT is a protocol developed by the College Board, the same people who created AP. And they kind of know what they're doing. And the way this works is it allows you to break down a poem into its component parts. So what we'll do first on your worksheet on page 60, first we'll learn how to use SIFTT, and then we're actually going to sift or do the SIFTT protocol on Allowables by Nikki Giovanni. You're going to love her. So the first thing you're going to do is write the poem title and the author, or the poet rather, I apologize. So the poem title we'll be using is Allowables, and it's by Nikki Giovanni. Take a moment and jot that down right now. The next thing you're going to want to do is go down to symbols. Don't. Please do imagery next. I will do I first. Imagery first. The reason is, once you've identified all the images in the poem, it's going to be much easier to do everything else, including the symbols. So I've made some highlights on my sheet, and you probably want to do the same. So you'll notice that in imagery, I highlighted movement, because what you're doing with imagery is identifying the 6 senses found in the poem and thinking about how the images stand out. Now, you're usually used to thinking about 5 senses, but you actually also can sense movement. And in a poem, that is super important. The movement in a piece is really crucial. So I really want you to note that to yourself, that movement is something you'll be tracking. Okay. The second thing you'll do is look at figurative language. I would recommend that you look for, similes, metaphors, personification, hyperbole, the ones that you're pretty used to. Similes are easy to find. You're looking for like or as. If you don't see those, there's no similes. Okay. And what you need to do in this is not only identify the figurative language, but say what it means, what it really communicates. If, for instance, you were thinking about a simile of poetry is like a flower, you would talk about how the connotation of flower is very positive, and therefore you are saying something nice about poetry by comparing it to a flower. If I said the hyperbole, my cat is as big as a house, then I couldn't stop there. I would write, I found the hyperbole, my cat is as big as a house, and it shows that the cat is very, very large. Probably not a very healthy cat. Okay. After that, you'll be looking at tone and title. Now, tone, if you look at that word, see how it looks a lot like connotation? It's because tone is made up of connotation. You look at the words that the poet has chosen, and think about how they make you feel. What connotations and connections do you feel with those? And the title is really important too. The title is really important to analyze, especially as part of the tone. If you have a poem called Refugees, and just like our Refugees poem, it started off really mean, that doesn't seem to make sense. If the poem title were like Horrible Immigrants, that would seem to make a little bit more sense. So the tone, the connotation of the title is going to help to play a role in your tone analysis. Now you're going to want to do theme next. Psych, do that last. Your paper should look like mine, please. Okay. What you do after that is now symbols. Okay. So you're going to look at alternate connotations, right? So if there's a flower, what could that symbolize? Okay, well, flowers are actual plants. Okay, so it doesn't symbolize plants. Oh, but a flower could symbolize love. I give flowers to people that I love. A flower could also symbolize growth and improvement and spring and happiness. Okay, so those things are what you're going to put in your symbols. You want to try to find a couple symbols per poem. And I'm going to show you how to do that with allowables. But before we move on to that, theme. Once you've done all this other work, the theme is probably going to be pretty obvious. You're all pros at theme. So you know that I expect you to write, a good little paragraph there. I'm going to be looking for you to identify a theme, cite some evidence, and explain that. All right? A cute little ace paragraph. Okay? You can fit it in there. And if you can't, fortunately, theme is on the bottom, so if you need more space, just keep going. So what we're going to look at is this poem, Allowables. And as with any poem that we do, we want to first start by highlighting words that we don't know. So go ahead and take a moment and highlight words you don't know. Thanks. So I've highlighted a couple words that I think might need clarification. Allowables, yeah, it's able to be allowed, right? So it's something that's allowed. And I do want to make sure that you catch that that's something, even though maybe we're not talking about things. Moving on, you probably didn't highlight brown, but it's actually part of the title. This is talking about a brown recluse and a black widow. Those are both venomous spiders. That means if they bite you, they give you a lot of poison and it makes you sick. Okay? So they're dangerous. Okay? And papery. Papery is like paper, like it's delicate, it's soft. It's definitely not dangerous. So I'm sharing with you this poem, obviously a very short poem, and I want you to go ahead and track the poem as I read it to you, and then we're going to SIFTT it together. Allowables by Nikki Giovanni. I killed a spider, not a murderous brown recluse, nor even a black widow. And if the truth were told, this was only a small, sort of papery spider who should have run when I picked up the book, but she didn't, and she scared me, and I smashed her. I don't think I'm allowed to kill something because I am frightened. That's the whole poem. So I'd like you to read it again to yourself. So go ahead and pause the video, read it again to yourself, and really think it through. So now that you've read that a second time, let's take a look at, well, we've got our poem title and our poet. So we're going to move down to imagery. I will start with imagery. Okay? So let's think about, what can I see? Well, in this poem, I killed a spider. Well, it's not a brown recluse, so I don't see that. I don't see a black widow. Okay, it's a small papery spider. Oh, so I see a small spider. So I can write that down. What do I see? Write this down. A small spider. And what am I hearing? Well, in this, we have her smashing the spider. And what is she using to smash the spider? Well, I guess a book. Now, it doesn't say in the poem what we might be hearing, but if I smash something with a book, well, that's definitely going to make a sound. So in hearing, I'm going to put what I imagine hearing, the book slamming onto whatever, the book slamming. Now, in this poem, taste? I hope not. Let's double check. Let's see, I killed a spider. I don't see any taste. And that sometimes happens. But I might push myself and think a little bit harder, like, I'm frightened. Does fear have a taste? So you could put that you taste fear. Or you could just put a little line like there wasn't a lot of taste. Now touch, I want you to think that through. What can you touch in this poem? As you're playing your mental movie of this poem, what do you feel? Well, when I picked up the book, what am I feeling? Go ahead and write that down. Now, smell? Again, maybe there's not a smell. You can go ahead and leave that blank if you can't think of a good smell for there. Now movement, this piece is full of movement. Look how the words even move down the page. They're skipping around. There's so much movement. Who should have run, picked up. She scared me. I smashed her. Those are movements. She should have run. I picked up the book, smashed. These are movements. That's what I want you to write down. So please write down picked up and smashed in movement. Now, for figurative language, we're looking for the types of figurative language that we've seen. So I don't see any similes. I don't know if I see any metaphors, but I don't know. I think this idea of she should have run when I picked up the book, thinking like the spider should have figured that out. Maybe that's personification because I don't think of spiders as thinking through a lot. So I can write down the spider should have run is personification because, and I want you to make sure that you finish this, because it shows the spider thinking in a way that a person would. Okay? So remember, personification is when you make a non-human thing human-like. Now, as far as tone goes, thinking about the word choice, we've got things like brown recluse and black widow. Those are dangerous. So I think that those words really bring an element of danger. She's also got frightened, right? She's got danger, she's got fear, but she also has this, I don't think I'm allowed. So thinking about how that makes me feel, thinking about the tone, how that impacts me and the connotation that I have to that, maybe I'm feeling a little guilty or ashamed. So guilt or shame. And then when I look at the title's called Allowables. So is this talking about an allowable action? Is this talking about other things that might be fearful? I don't know. And honestly, if I'm not ready to say, it's okay. You can talk about just the tone of the words. So you can put danger, fear, guilt, or shame, and then explain that. So danger, fear, and guilt or shame are all connotations that I got from words in the poem, such as scared, frightened, brown recluse, black widow, allowed. You really want to fill this out. Make sure that you are using your best ideas. We're not trying to do the little as possible because you really want to understand the poem. Especially this one. You're going to find this really useful when we write our essay at the end of the unit. Last but not least in SIFTT is symbols. Now, you've just spent all this time looking at images. Is a small spider potentially a symbol? Well, if you're thinking of a small spider, especially a little papery one, well, it's not dangerous, but she treats it as dangerously as a black widow. So maybe a black widow could be a symbol. A black widow or a brown recluse is a symbol of danger or maybe dangerous people. Whereas the small spider is not dangerous, but maybe treated like it's dangerous. So I want you to really think about the black widow, the brown recluse, and the papery spider. I also want you to notice the colors of these creatures, brown and black. They're the really dangerous ones. but the one she kills is the color of paper, maybe? So think that through. If you can find some more symbols, I'm going to encourage you to do that. But if you can't, that's okay too. So do your absolute best with this. I do want an ace paragraph here in theme, and I can't wait to see